Hello everyone. Subscribe to the channel to get more videos. Also, let us know in the comments what city you're watching from. Now let's begin this one. Sunday nights were supposed to be quiet. For me, at least. I'd spent the afternoon in my home office, organizing a handful of rollover IRAs for some clients and double-checking pension projections for an older couple in Tulsa. No drama. Just numbers, the way I like them. I was making a cup of tea when the front door opened. Claudia didn't say a word. Just breezed past me like I was part of the furniture. She wore a short burgundy dress I'd never seen before, low-cut, tight-fitting, with glitter on her collarbone and a fresh blowout. Her heels clicked up the stairs without pause. New dress? I asked casually, sipping my tea. She didn't answer. Just called over her shoulder. Got a reunion tonight. Old colleagues. That was her line lately. Old colleagues. New friends. Networking dinners. Therapy walks that always ended in rooftop bars with candlelight and clinking glasses. I waited until I heard the closet door open upstairs. Then I walked to the foyer, picked up her handbag from the side table, and opened it. Inside, her phone, a pack of gum, her ID, some lip balm, and a wad of cash wrapped around 2 credit cards, both of which had my name on the statements. I took them out. Every single item she used to move freely through my wallet in this house, I took it. Her phone. The ID I paid to replace when she lost hers last year. Every card, every dollar. I left the gum. By the time she walked back down, slipping on gold earrings and ignoring me entirely, I was already seated on the couch, scrolling through market reports like nothing had happened. I'll be back late, she said, like she always did. No, you won't, I replied. She paused by the front door, finally looking at me. What does that mean? I stood up slowly. It means I know, Claudia. About Vincent. The client who booked a midnight consultation at that hotel on 15th. The one with a sealed record in Florida and a temper he hides behind whiskey and fake charisma. Her lips curled into a slow, tired smile. You're spying on me now? I've been married to you for 12 years. I know when something's wrong. And I know when I'm being taken for a ride. She leaned on the doorframe, arms folded, tone icy. So what? You going to beg me to stay? Lecture me on commitment? Let's save time. I've been checked out of this marriage for a long time, Mason. And I've been funding your escape plan, I said. Not anymore. I held up her phone and cards. You're done using my name to live your double life. You want out? Then go. But not with my money. Not in my house. She looked stunned for half a second. Then, a mocking chuckle. You really think you're in control now? I'll walk. I'll call a lawyer. You'll lose everything. Not everything, I said. Just you. Which, frankly, is a discount. Claudia stepped forward, eyes narrowed. You can't force me out. I don't have to, I said, moving past her and opening the door. You'll find that your keys don't work anymore. I changed the locks. Oh, and I texted your dear Vincent a screenshot of his arrest record, just in case he forgot who he really is. She didn't speak. Just stood there, stunned, her purse empty and useless in her hands. I handed her a coat from the rack. Take a walk. Stay at a hotel. Maybe with one of your old colleagues. But don't come back. I shut the door behind her before she could answer. Then I locked it. For the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Silence. Not just around me, but inside. Let the war begin. The next morning, I made 2 phone calls before even brushing my teeth. First was to Sierra. She picked up on the second ring, her voice groggy but warm. Hey, Dad. What's up? Sierra, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I need to tell you something. It's about your mom. There was a long pause. Oh, she said quietly. Okay. Go ahead. I walked into the kitchen, pacing slowly between the island and the sink. She's been cheating. For a while. With a client. Vincent's something. You don't know him, but I think you should. He's not just untrustworthy, he's dangerous. Violent past. Cleaned up for business meetings, but not on paper. Sierra didn't speak right away. I could hear her breathing, maybe standing up and moving around. She kicked you out? No. I kicked her out. Another pause. Then, good. That one word nearly knocked the air out of my chest. I always thought something was off with her, she said, voice stronger now. But I didn't know how to ask. What do you want me to do? I'd like you to come home for a few days. Just to talk. I want you to see everything before lawyers get involved. I have proof, recordings, screenshots, account transfers. You're suing her? Eventually. For now, I'm just building a case. Sierra agreed to catch a flight on Friday. I thanked her and promised to cover it. She laughed and said, "You always do." The second call was to Natalie, my neighbor 2 houses down. A widow in her 50s, retired nurse, sharp as a tack. She and I had shared 100 conversations over the years about gardening, retirement, Claudia's mood swings, subtle things, quiet truths. "Natalie," I said, "I might need a favor." "Is this about Claudia?" she asked. I exhaled. "Yeah, she's gone. For good, I think. But I'm not ruling out trouble. If things go sideways, can I crash at your place for a night or two?" "Of course," she said without missing a beat. "You want coffee?" "Later," I said. "I've got a checklist to finish first." I spent the rest of the day locking down our joint accounts, freezing credit lines, forwarding mail to my office P.O. box. Claudia had always controlled the social calendar, but I had quietly taken back the finances over the last year. Slowly, one login at a time. The hardest part wasn't the logistics. It was reliving the slow rot. The way she used to compliment my cooking until she didn't. The way she rolled her eyes when I wore department store shirts to family dinners. Her casual dismissal when I surprised her with flowers. "You know I don't like lilies." Death by 1,000 cuts. That night, I pulled out the tablet I kept by the bed. She thought I used it for audiobooks. And I did. But only the first 30 seconds. Buried in those files were hours of conversations, arguments, passive-aggressive insults, backhanded praise. All recorded. All labeled. One of them was titled simply, "Dinner, June 14th. I tapped it. Her voice crackled through the speaker. "Honestly, Mason, do you ever get tired of being boring? You talk like a spreadsheet." I paused it. That was enough for tonight. I opened a new folder on my laptop and labeled it, Exhibit A, Verbal Abuse. The war was quiet now, but I was ready for noise. 3 weeks later, I threw a party. A banner hung across the break room wall in my office, "Financially free at last," in bold blue letters. There was a cake from the bakery downtown, cream cheese frosting, gold lettering. A little much, maybe, but the sarcasm was part of the point. It was petty. It was performative. It was perfect. Natalie stood beside me near the coffee machine, sipping sparkling cider and chuckling at the photos pinned to the corkboard. One showed me dramatically tossing a credit card into a shredder. Another was just a pie chart I had mocked up for laughs. Claudia's monthly spending versus Claudia's monthly income. 0 to 100. Literally. "This is wildly inappropriate," Natalie whispered with a grin. "That's what makes it fun," I said. Right on schedule. The courier walked in at 3 p.m. sharp suit, envelope in hand. I handed him the bouquet of fake roses I'd prepped for the occasion and nodded toward the camera. "Make it count," I said. He smiled. "Always." He left with the envelope in hand, Claudia's official divorce summons, and I knew she'd receive it within the hour. Not at work. She didn't work anymore. Just listed wellness consultant on her Facebook bio and spent afternoons pretending to run someone else's social media while drinking overpriced smoothies in places with too much reclaimed wood. I waited exactly 10 minutes before pulling out my phone. Sent. A single folder of images. Me slicing the cake. Natalie smearing frosting on my nose. The banner. The laugh. My hand on her shoulder, not romantic, but warm enough to be interpreted that way by someone who wanted to find an excuse to rage. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed. "Claudia. What the actual hell is this? You think this is funny?" "Me." I did laugh. Yes. Once or twice. "Claudia. You just declared war. You want to humiliate me? Fine. I'll respond in court. You'll regret this." "Me. Locks are changed. Cards are canceled. The lawyer is excellent. I regret nothing." She didn't reply after that. That night, I made one last move. I waited until 9, then walked out to the driveway and let the air out of the tires on her Lexus. Not slashed, just deflated. Enough to keep her stuck until morning. She still had the spare key. She'd try to come back. Of course she would. At 6:42 p.m., I drove off with Natalie to dinner. Reservation under Mason, a little Italian place that served hand-cut pasta and wine that didn't need a second mortgage. By the time we pulled back into her driveway around 8:15, Claudia's car was finally parked outside my house. Headlights on. Engine still running. She stormed up the porch steps, rattled the doorknob, then banged once, twice, 3 times. I stayed put on Natalie's sofa, sipping wine and watching through the blinds. She shouted something at the door, kicked it once, then paced in a circle like a cornered animal. Eventually she stopped. She pulled out her phone and started typing. Probably Vincent. probably begging for backup. But no one came. 10 minutes later, she drove off. I didn't move. I just leaned back, glass in hand, and let the silence wrap around me. I'd played polite for 12 years. Now, I was playing to win. I was halfway through brushing my teeth when I heard the crash. Glass. Shattering. Not a knock, not a doorbell, just violence at 11:13 p.m. on a Wednesday. I froze. Then I walked calmly down the hall, flicked on the porch light, and peeked through the front window. Claudia's Lexus was parked crooked across my lawn. The front passenger window on my side door was smashed clean through. Bits of glass sparkled like ice on the hardwood. And there she was, standing in the dark, breathing hard, her arm streaked with blood. I opened the door just a crack, staying behind the frame. "You want to be arrested, or just bandaged?" She looked at me like she didn't recognize my face. Or maybe she didn't want to. "You locked me out of my life," she hissed. "Everything I built." "You didn't build anything," I said. "You borrowed, stole, manipulated. And now the credit line's closed." Her hand trembled. She tried to push past me, but I had already installed double-keyed locks on every entrance. The house was sealed like a vault. "You're bleeding," I said. "You might want to get that looked at." "I'm not leaving," she shouted. "You don't get to erase me, Mason." "I'm not erasing you," I said. "I'm documenting everything. Don't worry." I shut the door. The next morning, I was first in line at the courthouse. I filed for a temporary restraining order. Evidence included the photos of the broken window, a screen recording of her angry texts from the previous night, and 3 video clips from my porch camera. The judge didn't hesitate. By 3 p.m., Claudia was officially barred from coming within 100 feet of my home or my person. The papers were served before sundown. Her response? 17 voicemails in 40 minutes. All saved. One of them started with, "You're going to regret this," and ended with a string of words I won't repeat. Another was just her screaming my name, like that alone could undo reality. I uploaded them to a cloud folder labeled Threats, June 21st. Around dinner time, Tara showed up. Claudia's closest friend. Always in expensive loungewear, always floating on Claudia's latest gossip, always pretending she didn't know what was going on. "I'm just here to grab a few essentials for her," Tara said, standing on my porch with a faux sweet smile. She asked me to pick up her things. "No," I said, blocking the door. "She can request a formal property list through her attorney. Nothing leaves this house until it's locked." Tara pouted. "Mason, don't be petty." "I'm not. I'm thorough." She started to turn away, but I noticed something. Her tote bag was heavy, heavier than it had been when she walked up. My eyes locked on the corner of a brown shoebox sticking out from the zipper. "Open the bag," I said. "What?" She blinked. "It's just some." "Open the bag." She hesitated, then slowly unzipped it. Inside, tucked under a scarf and a bottle of water, was a weathered shoebox full of bundled bills. Hundreds. 50s. 10s. Inheritance money. Cash Claudia had never declared. She'd mentioned it once in passing, her great-aunt's nest egg. A legacy she didn't trust banks with. My jaw clenched. "You were going to steal this for her." Tara panicked. "She told me it was just old photos, Mason. I didn't know." "Save it." I stepped back and took a photo of the open bag. Then I looked her dead in the eye. "You have 2 choices. I report this theft to the police, or you tell me everything Claudia and Vincent are planning from here on out." She hesitated, then nodded. "Good," I said. "Welcome to the other side." The war wasn't just public now. It was personal. And I had just recruited my first informant. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and the judge wore her exhaustion like a second robe. I sat still at the plaintiff's table, folders stacked neatly, evidence tagged and indexed. My attorney, Dana Cho, leaned over and whispered, "This will go fast. She'll try to play the victim. You just keep quiet and let the paper talk." Across the room, Claudia sat with arms folded, dressed in gray like she was attending a funeral. Hers, maybe. Her lawyer, some smug guy from downtown with an expensive watch and no real plan, shuffled through papers with the confidence of a man who hadn't seen what was coming. Dana opened with our timeline clean, professional, devastating. She presented screenshots of Claudia's income deposits being rerouted to a separate account in her name only. Statements showing I had paid every mortgage, utility, and credit card bill for the past 7 years. Audio clips of Claudia mocking me, recorded under the guise of bedtime reading sessions with my tablet. The judge raised her eyebrows at one entry labeled, "Verbal Dismissal, July 8th. Dana played 30 seconds. Claudia's voice. Mason thinks just because he pays for everything, he gets to be respected. Please. He's like a houseplant. He just stands there and expects praise. The judge blinked. Let's move on, she said flatly. Claudia's lawyer stood next, all puffed chest and faux indignation. Your Honor, regardless of past marital disagreements, our position is that the marital estate must be divided equally. 50-50 is the law. Dana stood immediately. Only when both parties act in good faith. Financial abuse nullifies that standard. The judge nodded. Continue. We had emails. Bank transfers. A letter from Claudia's ex-client detailing her attempts to solicit personal investments, one of which conveniently disappeared when Vincent got involved. And Tara, my new reluctant mole, had provided text screenshots showing Claudia bragging about hiding her inheritance to protect what's mine before the storm hits. When Dana submitted the shoebox photo into evidence, Claudia finally snapped. This is ridiculous, she shouted. He's painting me like a monster. The judge looked up slowly. You forged financial documents. You diverted income. You verbally humiliated your spouse on record. Claudia's voice broke. It wasn't abuse. It was just marriage. The judge closed the file. Division of assets denied. Spousal support denied. Defendant is entitled to retain her personal income moving forward, but all assets tied to the plaintiff's earnings remain in his name. The court finds clear financial manipulation. This case is closed. Claudia's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her lawyer packed up silently. As we exited, Claudia muttered, "This isn't over, Mason." I turned to her. "Then behave, Claudia. Because you're still under a restraining order." She didn't like that. Later, at the courthouse cafe, I met a man named Ethan. Mid-30s. Grease on his hands. Mechanic shirt. He recognized me, said he'd heard about the case through a mutual friend of Natalie's. "You took her down," he said, shaking my hand. "That gives me hope." We talked. He had his own messy divorce pending. His ex had keyed his car, emptied his account, blamed him for her DUI. We shared stories over cheap coffee, and by the end of it, I had an idea. "Tell me," I asked, "you ever done any bodywork on Alexis?" He grinned. "Plenty." I leaned in. "I've got a job for you. Totally legal, mostly." He listened, then nodded. Claudia wouldn't see it coming. And when she did, it would already be too late. The storm had passed in court. Now, I was engineering the aftershocks. Sierra arrived 2 days after the hearing. She stepped through the front door with a carry-on bag, a faded university hoodie, and a face I hadn't seen in years, grown, tired, and tight with worry. She hugged me like she meant it. I held on a little longer than I should have. "You look good," I said, stepping back. "You look thinner," she replied. I smiled. Divorce has its benefits. We sat in the kitchen over coffee. I didn't waste time with small talk. She had come home for answers, and I owed her the truth. "I recorded your mother," I began, pulling the tablet from the drawer. "Some of it's ugly. A lot of it is just sad. But you should hear it. I want you to know what was happening inside this house." She listened in silence. Her knuckles tightened around the mug when Claudia's voice played through the speaker, cold, clipped, dismissive. "Mason couldn't lead a grocery list, let alone a family. I'd rather die broke than depend on that man for affection. He's just there. Like wallpaper. Gets in the way of the real world." Sierra said nothing. She let the audio finish, then set the mug down gently. "I didn't know," she said. "No one did," I replied. "Not really. I didn't even know the full shape of it until I started listening back. Living in it, you start to accept the little insults like background noise." She nodded. "I remember the fights. But I always thought you were just quiet. That maybe you didn't care." "I cared too much," I said. "That was the problem." Sierra stood and walked to the window. Outside, the front lawn looked normal. Birds. Trees. Someone across the street mowing their yard. Nothing out there hinted at what had unraveled inside. "She tried to pull me in," she said quietly. I turned. "What do you mean?" Sierra's voice didn't shake. She'd clearly practiced saying this, maybe in a mirror, maybe in her head. "Last year, when I came home for spring break, Mom and Vincent picked me up from the airport. You were out of town." I froze. "She brought him to pick you up?" "He said it was a surprise," she continued. She laughed like it was nothing. "But later that night, things got weird. He started asking if I wanted to model. Said I had the right body type. Mom just sat there, sipping wine, not even reacting. My stomach turned. He said he knew a photographer. Asked if I'd wear something sheer for a test shoot." Sierra's voice cracked for the first time. I told him no. I told Mom I was uncomfortable. She told me I was being dramatic. I stood without realizing it. Sierra's eyes welled, but she didn't cry. The next morning, he knocked on my door before breakfast. I locked it. He tried the handle twice. Jesus, I whispered. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't know how, she said. I thought maybe. I overreacted. But now, hearing her talk to you like that, watching her protect him instead of me. She took a deep breath. I'm done pretending she's someone she isn't. I walked over and sat beside her. You're safe now. I promise. I believe you, she said. But you need to promise me something else. Anything. If he ever comes near me again, she said. I steady. You call the cops. You don't negotiate. You don't try to be the bigger person. I nodded. I won't. I'm past grace. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, imagining all the ways I'd failed my daughter by letting that man get anywhere near her. At 3:11 a.m., I opened a note on my phone and typed, "Do not underestimate Vincent. Do not forgive Claudia." Then I tapped share and sent it to my lawyer. The war wasn't over. But for the first time, Sierra was in the trench beside me. And I wasn't fighting alone anymore. It happened 3 days before the final court date. I had a routine: gym at 6:30, home by 7:30, coffee, check emails, then office by 9 o'clock. No deviations, no surprises. That morning, though, something itched at the base of my neck when I pulled out of the driveway. Instinct. The pickup showed up 6 blocks from my house. Dark blue, dented bumper, windows too tinted for a legal inspection sticker. I caught a glimpse in the rearview mirror, didn't think much of it until the truck changed lanes when I did. Again at the next turn. And again when I pulled onto the main road heading out of the neighborhood. I tested it with a left into a gas station, then an immediate exit through the back lot. The truck followed. That's when my stomach dropped. My phone was already in my hand, ready to dial Sierra, but I stopped myself. She was back in her apartment. I wasn't dragging her into this. I changed direction again, heading toward the river underpass near Southfield. Narrow, tight curves, nowhere to pass. A good place to confirm what I already suspected. The truck sped up. I saw it in the mirror, weaving in and out of traffic behind me. Then it dropped back. A second later, it surged forward. That's when I saw her. Claudia. Passenger seat. Hair tied back. Eyes locked on me, mouth moving fast like she was shouting instructions. Vincent was driving. Of course it was Vincent. I didn't brake. I didn't swerve. I veered right, just enough to make them miss as they tried to clip my bumper. I gunned it under the bridge, pulled hard into a vacant lot behind an old diner, and dialed 911 with one hand on the wheel. Emergency dispatch. My name is Mason Rowe. I'm being followed and possibly targeted for vehicular assault. Suspects are Vincent Pace and Claudia Rowe. Yes, my ex-wife. They tried to hit my car. This is an attempted collision. Are you safe? Currently, yes. But they're circling. Vincent's truck came back around, crawling behind the diner like a vulture. Claudia leaned out her window, screaming something I couldn't hear. The dispatcher stayed on the line. Units are en route. Stay in the vehicle. Lock your doors. They pulled alongside my driver's side. I reached into the glove box and placed my registered Glock on the passenger seat, not pointed, not drawn. Just visible. Vincent noticed. His face went stiff. He slammed the truck into reverse and peeled out of the lot. Too late. 2 cruisers skidded onto the street seconds later. Sirens lit up the morning sky in blue and red. One patrol unit cut off the truck from the front. The other boxed it in from the rear. Vincent ran. Of course he did. He didn't make it 10 feet before they tackled him face down on the pavement. Claudia didn't move. Just sat in the truck, dazed, hands on the wheel like none of it was happening. One officer approached my car. I showed my ID, registration, and restraining order. Then I said, loud and clear, they tried to ram me off the road. I want to press charges. The officer nodded. Already filed. Witnesses saw it from the bus stop. Claudia was cuffed last. She didn't look at me, but I looked at her. Really looked. Her face was sunken. Makeup worn off. Lipstick smudged. That invincible posture she always wore, it was gone. Vincent was already yelling as they shoved him into the back seat of a cruiser. I was just trying to talk to him. I didn't touch him. You can't prove anything. The cop slammed the door shut. I stood there, silent. The sun broke through the clouds above the scene, lighting the shattered windshield of Vincent's truck like a cracked mirror. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt done. The war was over. All that remained was cleanup. For years later, I was a grandfather. Sierra and her husband had their first child in March, a little girl with her mother's dimples and a cry like she was trying to negotiate from day one. I held her in the hospital room, small and wriggling in my arms, and felt something I hadn't in a long time. Peace. Not relief. Not victory. Just peace. That morning, I went home and opened the box. It had been sitting in my closet since the trial. Same faded cardboard, same rubber band holding it shut. Claudia's shoebox. The one full of secrets and rolled up 20s and bad decisions. I never touched the money. I could have, legally. It would have been easy. But I didn't. It wasn't about punishment anymore. I pulled out my phone and called her. She picked up on the fourth ring. Her voice had changed. Smokier. Slower. Like time had sanded down the edges. Hello. It's Mason. A pause. You okay? I am. You out. She exhaled. 6 months ago. Parole board let me go early. I figured. Another silence. Not tense. Just fragile. Can I ask something? I said. Can you come by the house? One last time. She hesitated. Is Sierra? No. Just me. An hour later, she pulled into the driveway in a cab. No more Lexus. No designer purse. Just a plain coat and a bag that looked like it had seen some things. When I opened the door, she looked older. Smaller. Like gravity had finally gotten a hold of her. I led her into the kitchen, placed the shoebox on the table, and slid it across to her. What is this? She asked. You remember. She opened it slowly. Money still inside, untouched. The inheritance she'd tried to hide. The one Tara almost walked away with. I didn't use it, I said. Wasn't mine. She blinked. Why give it back now? Because I'm done keeping things just to make a point. She ran a hand over her face, then sat down across from me. Her voice cracked. Vincent got 15 years. You know that? I do. And me? Well, I deserved it. All of it. The court. The sentence. The fall. I nodded. Yeah, I think about it a lot, she whispered. What I did to you. What I didn't do for Sierra. She's okay, I said. She's a mother now. Claudia flinched. She won't talk to me. I wouldn't expect her to. Not for a while. She nodded, like she already knew that. Then she looked up at me. Really looked. You never hit me back, she said. No matter what I said. What I did. That wasn't strength, I replied. It was waiting. For what? For the day I could sit across from you and not want revenge. Just honesty. She swallowed. Her eyes were glassy, but no tears fell. Do you think I ever loved you? I think you love being loved, I said. And I made that easy. She winced, but didn't deny it. I pushed back my chair, stood, and walked to the door. She followed. As she stepped outside, she paused on the porch. You still think I saw you as weak? I turned to her. You tell me. Her jaw tightened. Then, with a bitter little smile, she said, No, not anymore. I nodded once. She walked down the steps, shoebox in hand. I closed the door behind her. No dramatic goodbyes. No apologies. Just a chapter sealed, for years late. Later that night, Sierra sent me a photo, her daughter wrapped in a tiny blanket, asleep in her arms. She smiled today, the text read. For real. I smiled back, even if she couldn't see it. Because for the first time in decades, the house was quiet. And so was I. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel and share your opinion about this story in the comments.